What's up, guys? What it do? Okay, so I'm super excited to be back with the video continuation series of the travel to South Korea during a pandemic process. If you're interested, I have other videos on my channel about the flying into South Korea process, as well as the quarantine facility process, specifically as it relates to Marina Bay Hotel. So again, if you're interested, check those videos out. I'm not gonna lie, those ones are hella long, but like I promise they have all the information you need. So if you're interested, check those ones out. But this video is strictly going to be about the post-quarantine hotel process, particularly as it relates to how I chose a hotel, or hotels rather, why I chose the hotels I did, and things like that. So I'm not actually going to start like at day one when I was released from quarantine, but I'm actually going to start way before, as in before I even got to Seoul, South Korea. So picking a hotel was quite literally one of the very last things I did. And the main reason is because I was essentially my own travel agent for this trip, and there were some other things that I needed to figure out first. So once I figured out how long I was going to be there for, and for reference, I was only in South Korea for like 2.5 weeks, post-quarantine, right? So like when I'm free and like doing stuff in Seoul, I was only really out there for like 2.5 weeks. So that made an impact in my decision on where I was going to stay. After I decided how long I was going to stay out there for, I then decided what were all of the things that I wanted to see, the places I wanted to go, and the places I wanted to eat. So I wrote out a whole list of like all the attractions and things that I wanted to do. And then from there, I wrote out a shorter list, a more manageable list of things that I could actually see and do and visit when I was actually out there for 2.5 weeks. And that really helped me like focus and identify what was realistic, and then further pick out areas that were more common in the attractions that I wanted to see. So specifically, right, like just work with me here. Let's say that in Seoul, you have the Han River here, and then you have like North Seoul, and then you have South Seoul. So what I did after I created a shorter list was I identified and almost mapped out where all of the places were that I wanted to see. So like, let's say that there were 10 attractions, 10 touristy places that I really, really, really wanted to see during my 2.5 week trip there. And let's say that 6 of those locations were over here and 4 of those locations were over here. So what I did from there was I identified common tourist areas that I wanted to go to, and I picked a hotel in those areas. Again, there were a couple reasons why I did it that way. And there were also a few other additional factors in choosing my hotels within those areas. So, right, we're checking off the things, right, checklist. Checked off what we wanted to do, checked off where we're going, checked off the area that we want a hotel in. Now it's picking the hotel. So there were a few factors across the board with regards to choosing a hotel. And I knew that I wanted a hotel in a touristy, well-lit-ish area, which we already identified by, right, mapping them out. The other thing that was super important to me was public transportation, just because I was going to be relying on public transit heavily. So that was super important to me. And then third, what was also super important to me in particular were two specific tourist attractions. So I knew at the end of the day, even though there were all of these things that I wanted to see, at the end of the day, I knew that I wanted to be able to be super, super close to Namsan Tower, Seoul Tower, and that I wanted to be super, super close to the river, to Han River. So those were the 3 additional factors into identifying also the common attraction areas. So based off of doing all of that research, I ended up choosing 2 hotels. So the first hotel I chose was L7 in Myeongdong. And part of the reason I chose that hotel, again, because most of the attractions were in that area. But then I also knew personally, right, because I know how I am, that the very first week, that first week and a half, I was going to want to do nothing but touristy stuff and like travel and visit and eat. And then the second week that I was there, right before I would be returning home, I knew that I wanted to mainly just focus on relaxing and like taking in and enjoying the vibes. So that further helped me identify some hotels. But again, my first hotel that I chose was L7 in Myeongdong. 10 out of 10, totally recommend. Like, I know for a fact when I go back to South Korea, I'm staying at this hotel. So here is a video clip of what that hotel looked like. Again, I totally recommend this hotel. It is super, super close to public transportation. Like, the subway is very literally right outside of the hotel doors. It's in Myeongdong, right on street shopping streets, which is redundant, but like, you know what I'm saying. It's right, also quite literally right around the corner from the cathedral. And again, what was super important to me was that it was a 7-minute walk from Namsan Mountain. Particularly, it was a 7-minute walk from my hotel to the cable car that took you up to Seoul Tower. So those were super, super important to me, and this hotel, L7, fit and checked off all of my boxes. I wholeheartedly recommend this hotel. For the important part, how much did it cost? So L7, and I'm looking at my notes, so don't mind me. This hotel, L7, cost me 1,084 US dollars, which is about 1,284,500 won. And for reference, Marina Bay Hotel, the quarantine facility hotel that I was at, was more expensive than L7 in Myeongdong, for, again, comparison. 10 out of 10 recommend this hotel. I cannot say, like, there are so many good things that I can say about this hotel. 10 out of 10 recommend. So when I left this hotel, the next hotel I was going to be staying at was Hotel Entra in Gangnam. And I hope you can hear and see the hesitancy in my voice when I talk about this hotel. It was a great hotel, fantastic hotel. And here is a video clip of what the hotel room looked like, so I can prove it to you. I do recommend this hotel. I just hesitated recommending it for a handful of reasons. So the first reason is that when I left L7 in Myeongdong to come to this hotel, I had a hard time finding it. Particularly, my taxi driver went to 2 different locations before getting to this hotel. So what should have only have been like a 15-minute drive ended up taking and becoming like a 45-minute drive. And it's to no one's fault but my own, because I think I gave my man the wrong address, but I also think that the addresses were super similar. I think there's another Hotel Entra in the area. Like, I don't really know what the circumstances were rather, but like, getting to this hotel was a little tricky for me. One of the other reasons I hesitate on recommending this hotel is because of public transportation. So I was strictly relying on public transit. I also personally have a preference in that I like taking the subway over other means. Like, I would prefer to take the subway over the bus. And there's not a subway station super, super close or relatively anywhere relatively close to this hotel. There were a handful of times where, like, I had walked from the river, right? Because being near the river was super, super important to me. There were a handful of times where I would walk from the river at like 2 in the morning, and because public transit doesn't run that late and because there aren't as many taxi drivers out, like, I would have to walk from the river to my hotel, which I didn't mind doing because I actually really enjoyed it, right? Because we're just enjoying the vibes for this week. But just keep that in mind, like, if you are looking to rely heavily on public transportation, like, buses are super accessible there, but if you're looking for a subway, just know that you will most likely have to take a taxi or walk or take a bus to the nearest subway station. But I do still, like, that aside, I still totally recommend this hotel. It has a really good view. It's super, super close to the river, which was also very important to me. It's not super, super close, but it was super close to the river, close enough where I stayed there because there's river view, which I hope you were able to see in the video. It's still super close to touristy attractions, right? COEX is right down the street, maybe like a 20-minute bus ride. It's right across the street from luxury shopping. K-Star Road is right there. Like, this is a really, really good hotel. I do recommend it. My hesitation is just the public transit aspect. So keep that in mind. Now, what's most important is the cost. So this hotel for Hotel Entra cost me 1,488 US dollars, which is about 1,763,200 won. For further comparison, this hotel cost me just about the same as Marina Bay Hotel, the quarantine facility hotel. So do with that information what you will. But I do still recommend this hotel. I also, not hotel related, recommend taking international taxi. And I only needed to take a taxi, I think, 4 times. But, no, 3 times. 3 times. I only needed to take a taxi 3 times. But 2 of the 3 times, I had the same driver. And I hope you can see this right here. I hope you see this. I wholeheartedly, if there's anything I want you to take from this video, it's international taxi, specifically Mr. Yoon. So when I left L7, took international taxi incidentally because there was a taxi driver right there. I was, trying to speak in Korean, use my language, and my man's was like, stop talking, your Korean is garbage, I can understand you better in English. I had mad respect for him. I still have mad respect for him. I called him specifically to take me then from Hotel Entra to the airport to come back to the United States. I fully recommend him. So if you ever go to South Korea or you know someone who's going to South Korea, please hit him up because I promise you will not be disappointed. Anyway, there are 2 other things that I want to touch on with regards to being in Korea and the hotel process and entering buildings specifically. So the first one is with the hotel process. When you check into your hotel, you will obviously need to provide ID verification, your passport essentially, but you also will need to provide the hotel receptionist with your negative PCR test. And you can give them the same exact copy that you have been giving airport employees through your entire traveling into Korea process. It's the same exact one. My recommendation is to still print out and keep extra PCR negative test results if you can. But you give them the test result, they give it back. So I still recommend printing out more, but you don't have to. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is that when you go into buildings, every single building, you will have to do one thing in particular. So when you go into a building, you have to either enter your contact information, write it down, or call a phone number. Essentially, all this is contact tracing. And you might have seen this if you have been looking at other traveling to South Korea videos or just being in South Korea during the pandemic videos, is that there's a QR code that is shown in a lot of hotels. So or not just hotels, excuse me, but in every building. So what'll happen is when you walk into a building, there will be a sign, right? And at the bottom of the sign usually is a phone number, or actually it's right here. Anyway, if you are a tourist, I can confidently say you will most likely not have a QR code. So if you see something that says scan your QR code, or just ignore that. I'm going to recommend that you look for the board that has a phone number. I think it's in English. I think the text is written in English. But if not, the phone number is there. Call the phone number. Listen to the prompt. Most of the prompts are in Korean, though. I'm not going to lie, just to forewarn you. But, listen to the prompt, respond accordingly, and, that's it. If you don't see, if you go into, a smaller, more local establishment, and you don't see one of those, signs, and I promise you won't miss it. If you don't see a sign, you're going to have to ask someone there to, write down your information, and you're just writing down, your name, your phone number, where you're staying, things like that. And it's just contact tracing, and I'm from the United States, so South Korea does a phenomenal job with contact tracing. It's not a huge deal, I promise. It's just know that whenever you go into a building, every single building, you will have to either handwrite your information or call the phone number. But that's essentially it. I don't think I have anything else hotel related that I'm missing. We went over the cost and the location, which was the most important. So that's really it. I hope that this video specifically offered a little bit of guidance, maybe if it's in choosing a hotel or recommending a hotel. Either way, I hope this video was helpful. If there are other things that I didn't answer in this video or in other videos, or if you have questions about anything else at all, please let me know, and please don't hesitate to ask. I can guarantee that if you have a question, somebody else out there has the same exact question. We love open communication here, so please, like, reach out, ask questions. If you have comments or concerns, like, I go through all of them, I will respond, like, I promise. So please reach out. I also don't really have anything else in particular to talk about as it relates to traveling to South Korea during a pandemic. If you're interested, I could talk about like how much I spent in a day and where I went and how I built out my schedule as my own travel agent type energy. But otherwise, I don't really have anything else in particular. So let me know if there's something you want to learn more about, whether it is in Seoul, South Korea, or even whether it's about traveling in general or traveling within the United States to Philadelphia or to Chicago or to LA or something. And even with regards to languages too, right? Like whatever questions you have, please let me know. I am here and I will always be here. That's all I've got for today. So I think we've built enough of a relationship where, like, you know how this goes, right? Yeah, y'all know how this goes. All right, till next time. See you.